So a warm welcome to all of you today. I'm Piyush. I'm going to be your host today. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, based on wherever you are. Today is a very interesting day. We are going to talk about MBA abroad. So again, those of you who are preparing for GMAT, who are looking for doing an MBA, may have this question literally like multiple times that should I do my MBA from India? Should I do my MBA from Asia? Should I do my MBA from Europe or US? So today we are going to talk about that. We're going to help you understand where should you be looking at doing your MBA from. What should be the right thing to do? Like, should you do it from US, Europe, or Asia? And we're going to help you understand what are the factors that you need to use to decide. Obviously, I, as an individual, cannot take a call on your behalf. The call has to be taken by you. What I can do is I can help you in identifying the right factors and how should you look at those factors to get to this answer. Okay, so it's going to be a very interesting session. We're going to cover a lot of different aspects that you need to keep in mind and what are the different things that you need to think about. Okay, so once again, a warm welcome to the session who have just joined us, and keep it as interactive as possible, guys. Whatever questions you have, feel free to pop it up in the chat box here. And if you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself, that will be great as well, because I would get to know you. I would get to know what kind of goals are you aiming for, what kind of schools are you aiming for, like any specific questions you have in mind. Feel free to just put it out here. And if you are watching this video later on in a recorded format, feel free to share your questions in the comments. We are happy to help you out with that, or even share with us on support@gmatrix.com. And in case you want to connect with us to ask the questions, I'm also gonna ask my team to pop up the link to kind of schedule a call in our calendar. So in case you have a question you want to discuss directly with us, understand how GMATRIX team can help you, feel free to reach out to us. Okay. So without any further ado, let's get started. And if you have any questions, keep the comment pod going. Okay. Keep posting the questions over there. So a quick intro about myself. So I'll start with just a quick intro about myself. Those of you who know me well and great, those of you who don't, I'll just introduce a bit about myself. I have a decade of experience helping students enter top B schools globally. So I have been in this field for almost 10 years now, and I've helped people get into all kind of schools that you can think of. I have been an admission consultant. I have also been a member of AGAC. So AGAC, those of you who don't know, AGAC is the Association of International Graduate Admission Consultants, where like the best consultants in the world get a chance to be a member of this. There's a sternest process that is used to kind of find guys who are the people who get to be a member of this. So I was a member for AGAC for a year, and then after that I did not renew my membership. That's one story. I'll probably do it in the earlier years, but next year. But why I talked about this was because as a part of AGAC, they organize conferences with top B schools. So I was lucky enough to be a member of AGAC and attend one of the conferences that they organized in US in some of the top B schools. So this was a conference which was organized in the Midwest of the US, where we went to schools like Kellogg, Chicago, Booth, Michigan Ross, and we got to interact not just with the schools. We got to interact with the students, with the admission committee officers, with the directors from this particular schools, but we also got to interact. There was a particular day where every B school in the world, top B school in the world, whether you think of Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, INSEAD, HSC Paris, people from across the globe traveled, B school admission officers across the globe traveled to talk to these admission consultants, to tell them what they look for in a candidate, to share their perspectives, to answer their questions. And it was a really, really interactive session where I got to learn a lot around how the entire admission consultant process, personality process works from a adcoms perspective. So again, a lot of the insights which I'm going to give you today are going to be from that perspective as well, basically. Okay. Now, a quick intro about who we are. So some of you know about GMAT is that we are helping people for GMAT, but some of you might think, okay, isn't GMAT was all about GMAT? Not really. We definitely have pioneered the GMAT web through AI personalization, but from the very first student that we worked with for GMAT, we also helped her to get into the number one entrepreneurship backed school in the world. So even from the very first days, we have been helping students get into top schools. In fact, our success rate speaks for itself. We have 100% success rate when it comes to interview calls. Any student who has worked with us has definitely gotten to the stage where they have received interview calls from the schools. They applied to 93% success rate in these school conversions, and 88% of our students convert at least one of top 25 B schools globally. And these are just some of the B schools that our students have converted while working with us for the application process as well. So these are the students who have taken our help with their application process and converted. And you can pretty much find all the top B schools, including INSEAD, Kellogg, Chicago Board, London Business School, ISB, IIM Ahmedabad, whichever school you are looking for, we've helped people get there. Okay, so this was just a quick intro about us. Now let's get into the 6 factors that you should take into account while deciding the MBA country. Now, what I've done is I've divided the 6 factors into 2 broad categories. Okay, there are three factors of this which impact your pre-MBA life more. So this is something which impact your pre-MBA life, and then there are 3 factors which impact your post-MBA life more. So I've classified it this way, and what I'll try to do is I'll be covering 3 of these factors today. So instead of having one long 1.5 hour long session where I'm just covering everything on a surface level, I'll go deeper into the first 3 factors which you see on your screen, or the pre-MBA factors. And then in the next session, which will happen next Wednesday, same time, same place, we will talk about the next 3 factors, which are the post-MBA factors. Okay, so the first 3 factors, which are very, very critical to understand, is even to identify the geography that you want to go to, is whether you are looking at a 1 year program or a 2 year program. Which one of that is the correct option for you? And most people decided just basis that, okay, 1 year program is faster, 2 year program is slower. In 1 year program, I'll be able to complete my MBA faster. That's not the right thought process. What are the different things that you need to keep in mind? We'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about ROI, like how important is ROI? Why should you look at ROI? And what is the ROI of different schools? We'll talk about that as well. We'll talk about goals also. What is your post MBA goal? Like what is that you're looking at after doing an MBA? And what is the role that this factor plays in deciding the country that you go to? Then obviously those obvious things which happen become more important after MBA is visa, residency, and work-life balance. That's something which we'll be covering next Wednesday. Today is 12th, so this will be covered on 19th of June, 8:30 p.m. IST. That is 3 p.m. GMT at this in our YouTube channel. So stay tuned and do subscribe to our channel to get the notifications for the same overall. Okay, so let's get into each of these factors one by one. We'll talk about the first factor. What are the important things that you need to evaluate in order to decide whether you should go for a 1 year MBA versus a 2 year MBA? And I would like to see how many of you who are watching this live, I see about 9 people watching this live, how many of you are confused about a 1 year MBA versus a 2 year MBA program? If you are still confused about that, do say a yes. And if you want, you can share the reason also for that. In the meantime, I'll take up a few questions. Way of Witness says, does college matter for MBA? Because at least placements are not there, we need to apply for jobs. Okay, what do you think is the answer for that question? If college does not matter, then why would people worry about getting into a Harvard or Stanford or Wharton or an NCR for that matter? They could have just went to any B school. See, when you go to a B school, college does matter for an MBA because every college is unique. Every college has different alumni, different ways of teaching, and different impact in your life. So you cannot compare a tier 1 B school with a tier 2 B school in terms of the impact that makes to your life. So definitely college does matter, basically. So you need to look at it from a holistic perspective, is how I will say. You should not be just looking at it from a job perspective. And even if you're looking at it from just a job perspective, college still matters a lot, my friend. Okay. Suchin has a question. Hello, I've been through. I've seen that you mentioned IM, A, and BS converted. Colleges, are these stats for flagship PG programs or for the other ones? So these are stats for the executive programs of IIM Ahmedabad and Bangalore. But we have also helped people with the 2 year programs as well. But again, the 2 year programs of IIM Ahmedabad and Bangalore are something which take GMAT, not take the GMAT, they take the CAT scores. So before GMAT was, when I was working for CAT in the CAT market, CAT preparation market, I've helped people get into IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, all kind of top Indian programs in the 2 year flagship programs also. Okay. Now for foreign applicant and passport holders, yes, exactly. You can apply through using GMAT. But what you need to understand is that a B school still looks at a candidate and looks at certain skill sets in the candidate which are common. Now, obviously, in a 2 year program, flagship program, the application doesn't play a very significant role as it plays in an executive program. So obviously, those are slightly different things. But if the college is asking for essays and applications, questions are asked, they're looking at similar skill sets. I hope that answers your question, Suchir. So I don't see still people saying yes or no against whether they are confused about a 1 year or 2 year MBA. So I'm assuming that you've already decided, or you're just too shy to post your thoughts. But don't worry about it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer them. In fact, I would love to answer your questions. And therefore, I'm just taking up top three of these factors today so that we can go in depth in each of them. Now, when it comes to 1 year versus 2 year, what are the most common factors that people think of? The most common factor that people generally look at is opportunity cost. That, okay, if I'm going off away from 1 year, I'm actually doing, I'm getting my MBA done faster, I get into the job market faster, so my opportunity cost is lower. But that's not how you should look at it. See, the main thing which differentiates a 1 year versus a 2 year program is that when you're going to a 1 year program, you're already aware of what you want to do in your career. You have a clear cut idea that, boss, this is what I've done in my career till now. Let's say I have been in tech till now, I've been in software development. I want to move to product management. And I've understood that to move to product management, these are the certain skill gaps that I have. I don't understand, let's say, the consumer psyche that much. I understand coding, I understand product development, I understand all of that, but I don't understand consumer psyche. What is the right way to create a product? What are the different steps of the product life cycle? How do I do the market research for that? Those kind of things, the product marketing angle of it. So you already are, if you're already aware of what is that you want to do exactly, which field do you want to go to, and you have a bit good understanding of that, then a 1 year MBA is the best thing for you. Because in a 1 year MBA, what you're technically doing is you're getting a, you have a clear understanding of what you want to do. So you go with a clear clarity around it and you take the electives and courses in that way directly. So you don't get to have a lot of time like in a 2 year program where you kind of get entire year to get exposure to all the areas, to do multiple projects on all the areas, even do an internship and try and understand where your interest lies. And then in the next year, you specialize in that area. So that's one major difference between a 1 year and a 2 year MBA. And I strongly recommend people who have less years of experience. So then one thing which is the most important factors is the years of experience. So I strongly recommend people who have less than 4 years of experience should ideally go for a 2 year program. But again, I'm saying ideally because that's the ideal world and everyone is different. We have helped multiple people who have had just 3 years, 4 years of experience to get in a 1 year program also. It all depends on how mature you are in terms of having clarity around your long term career goal. Because think of it this way, you are probably going to do an MBA only once in your life. If you're going to do it from a top school, you're going to invest, let's say, upwards of 100K or 200K dollars, which is in Indian rupees, it's more than a crore, 1 CR, or anywhere around 70, 80 lakhs. You're investing that much money into a degree. You want to get it right. You don't want to get into a position where after doing your MBA 2, 3 years after, you are still thinking, okay, did I do the right thing? Did I get into the right role? And if you think of it this way, if you don't like the role that you are into, you probably cannot do another MBA. That is probably will be more difficult, more expensive as well. You cannot change your field either. So you're stuck in that field. Some people call it midlife crisis also. So you don't want to be in that position. So ideally, if you have less than 4 years of experience, around 4 years of experience, I strongly recommend going for a 2 year MBA program because that allows you to get an exposure to different verticals within the business. You get an exposure of finance, you get an exposure of marketing, operations, strategy, all the different verticals. And then you can utilize your understanding to identify which vertical you want to stick to. And then you can specialize in that and build your profile around that. But as I said, there's no ideal world in the ideal world. If you're someone who has clear idea about what you want to do, go for a 1 year program. Hands down, it definitely is faster. But again, it's something which also depends on your maturity. What is your goal really? So generally, years of experience. If you look at 1 year programs, 1 year programs generally look at people with higher number years of experience. Let's say, for example, usually I would go to the extent of saying that a 1 year program looks at people with about 6 to 8 years of experience usually, and a 2 year program usually looks at people with, let's say, 4 to 6 years of experience. Again, this is the right number, but obviously there are people in 2 year programs also who have 10 plus years of experience. We have seen people with 19, 20 years of experience also getting into 2 year programs. So it's not just about the number of years, but it's also about what is the basically thing that you're looking to get. So let's come to that part also. So the second thing that matters is which of the following do you really want to change? So when you're going for an MBA, you are looking at generally, like, and you will find this on a lot of these school websites, they also provide statistics around this, that when you're looking at doing an MBA, you are looking at changing at least one of these factors. You're either looking at changing your sector or the industry that you're working in. It's possible you're working in the banking industry. You don't want to work in banking, you want to get into manufacturing, you want to get into automobile, let's say, or you're working in automobile and you want to get into tech, basically, tech companies like Fang or something like that. You want to change your location. You have worked in India till now. You want or Asia till now. You want to move to US. You want to get exposure to international work experiences. You want to understand that. you might be looking at changing your job function or role. In fact, job function and role switch is the most important reason, the biggest reason why people generally make a move. So you are already working in software development. You want to move to product management, or you want to, let's say, move to a completely different role. You want to move to finance. You want to move to marketing. So generally, people do an MBA to change one of these three things. Now, rule of thumb is generally, I would say again, rule of thumb is that if you're going to do a 1 year MBA, you can at the max change two of these three factors, basically. Because it's very difficult for a 1 year MBA student to change all three of them. Because see, if you have already have, let's say, 8, 9 years of experience, and again, when companies come to hire students in 1 year programs, or they look at people with a 1 year program experience, basically they are looking at people who already have anywhere between 6 to 8 years of experience, which is mid to senior level roles. So they expect you to have at least that functional or the industry knowledge. So generally, I would say that you cannot change. It's very difficult for you to change industry as well as role. Basically, you can only change either one of the two. So let's say, for example, if you are in, let's say, operations, okay, you are in operations in the oil and gas sector. It's possible that you might switch to an operations role in a different industry, to, let's say, a banking industry or to a manufacturing industry setup rather than the oil and gas setup. Or you can get into the same oil and gas industry in a different role. You can move into finance for oil and gas, or something like that. So you need to keep one of the things two things constant if you are someone with higher experience, with, let's say, 6, 7, 8 years of experience or more than that, because you cannot start from scratch in that case. Usually, like with that much experience, you need to utilize your learning at least from the industry or from a rules perspective in your next career. Because obviously, when you have that kind of an experience, you would not be joining a junior level role or entry level role. You'll be joining somewhere between that, right? So you want to join in mid to senior level roles, the salaries will be accordingly. So you need to have some sort of experience on the table. And location, if you're doing an international MBA, you're anyway changing the location. So that's something which you need to keep in mind. So if you have to change all three of these, I would strongly recommend that you need to look at a 2 year MBA program. You cannot change all three usually with a 1 year program. There are few like exceptional cases always, and you'll find that data on these school websites also. But it's not ideal for someone looking at all three changes to go for a 1 year program. Strongly recommend a 2 year program. It's much more easier. The next thing that you need to also take into account is how important is internship for you. It's our internships for you basically. So if you feel that internships are very important for you, or internship is very important for you, then usually a 1 year program doesn't have the scope for internship. Most of the 1 year programs will not have an internship integrated within the program, because there's hardly any time to complete the curriculum. So you cannot probably do an internship there. Now, internship is something which is very important in case you want to do a role change. Basically, ideally, in case of changing the role, if you want to really change the job role, it's always recommended that you go through an internship basically in that particular role, so that you can develop some sort of understanding of that role and showcase that in your final placement when you're going to the final like job role basically. So it always helps. Now, in a 1 year program, internships are very rare to find. You'll always mostly find internships in a 2 year program. So if internships are very important for you, then again, you need to look at a 2 year program. So these are the factors that you need to keep in mind when you're looking at 1 year versus a 2 year program. And these are very critical factors. Now, 2 year programs are like, you will mostly find 2 year programs in US. Most of them are 2 year programs basically. In India, you have a lot of 2 year program, 2 year MBAs, but those are for very young professionals. So since you're talking about MBA abroad, let's focus on that. So I'll tell you about a few schools in Europe and India where you get 1 year program. So most of the European schools, I would say most of the ones that you are famous European schools, all of them have 1 year programs. And these are 1 year full-time programs that I'm talking about, okay? Residential, full-time, well-renowned flagship programs. So in CR, ISB, you have IIM executive programs in India, IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, all of them have executive programs. Oxford, Cambridge, these are exactly 1 year programs. Then you have programs like ESA, HEC Paris, SADE, RSM, where they give you a bit of flexibility. You can do it in 12 months, you can do it in 16 months, 15 months, like that. So if you want to add an internship, you can also add an internship, or 1 semester you can study abroad. So those kind of things are available in some of these programs, basically. So if you're looking at a 1 year program, if 1 year program is the goal for you, then Europe would be a very strong reason, because you will get a lot of options in Europe to choose from, because most of the colleges in Europe have a 1 year program as their flagship program. So you'll find the alumni network to be much stronger and all of that. On the other hand, if you look at US and Canada, like there are hundreds of great schools in US and Canada. And even if you look at like really, really great schools, there are at least 50 of them in US and Canada. But if you look at the 1 year programs, there are hardly any. You can see the list on the screen. So Kellogg 1 year program is very, very well known. Ivy Business School in Canada, it's a 1 year program, it's very well known. Cornell has a 1 year program, which is well known. MSX and Sloan Fellow are 1 year programs, but these are for people generally with about 10 plus years of experience who are senior executives are looking at the next level jump in their career. So this is specifically, these are called the Sloan Fellow programs. This is there in three schools: MIT, which is MSX. Then you have you have Stanford. Then MIT Sloan Fellow is there. Then you have basically the London Business School 1 year program as well. So all three have this Sloan Fellow program. You can join that. It's for 10 plus years of experience people only. Okay. Then you have some other programs like Marshall IBEA. You have Stern Tech. These are more 1 year focused programs. These are not the flagship programs of the respective schools, basically. So if you look at US and Canadian job market, if you're looking at that geography to target in the long run, then probably like a 1 year program is something which you'll not get as an option in many of the colleges. So the competition will be really, really tough for these areas. So if you're looking at a 1 year program, pretty much you need to look at in India and Europe mostly. Like you can look at a few schools in US, but as I said, the competition is going to be high. But if you're looking at a 2 year program, you have to look at US and Canada, because in Europe you don't have any great 2 year program except for London Business School. So if you look at the top ones, only London Business School has close to about 20-month program, which is there. But apart from that, you will not find a single great 2 year program in European region. Okay, so that's another thing that you need to keep in mind when you're looking at like which country do you need to go to. Okay, so any questions to this point, feel free to ask me, guys. Happy to take them up. More than happy to think about it. So what you need to understand to decide whether you should do an MBA from US, Europe, or India is to understand first what do you want to do, what you're looking at. So I'll take an example basically of a student, because case studies always helps. So this is an example of Barkavi. Just to give you some background, Barkavi is a BBA graduate from Christ University, and she worked in 2 years in her family business, and she also had a couple of years of experience in BCG. And when she actually was applying, she had clarity around this fact that she wants to stay in her family business. She wants to take her family business to the next level. She wants to make it an international conglomerate, basically, and she wants to develop the right skills to basically convert the family business into a MNC. Because obviously, when you see businesses started by families, we try to do our best from the perspective of whatever we know. But she wanted to bring the best practices of global business practices into the business and make it more process oriented than people oriented, basically. So that's the goal that she had. And she knew that her family business is in India, and they were looking at expanding in the Southeast Asian region. Like her family business was such that she was looking at this particular region. So she was very she was very aware that she has a very clear goal, that she is not looking for a job. She's looking at honing her entrepreneurial skills. So she's looking at strategy, she's looking at operations, these kind of things. And she was very clear that she is not looking at a 2 year program, because she doesn't want to see, okay, oh, boss, what are the different things that I can get from each function? And she's not looking at, okay, then I see where I want to go. So she had clear idea about what she wants to do. She has clear idea about where she wants to stay. So she applied to INSEAD Singapore, NUS Singapore, ISB, and she got selected to all three of them, basically. Even with a GMAT score of 700. Again, that clarity also helped. But what I'm trying to say is that you need to have this kind of clarity as Barkavi had around what is that you want to do. Again, there are different case studies. So we have people who were clear that, like for example, Manish is one student that we worked with before, before we worked with Barkavi. So he had a GMAT 710. He was a high achiever, and he was clear that he wants to stay in the same industry. He was in the consulting finance space, and he wants to stay in the same industry, but he wants to get international exposure, international experience. He had worked in India with big companies for a good time. So he had that idea. So he was only looking at doing it from Europe and US companies which can get him into the consulting space, basically after an MBA. So you need to have that clarity, and because of the clarity, he only applied to 1 year programs. Like he applied to, I think, INSEAD, Cornell, and Kellogg, and converted all three of them. And finally, he went to Kellogg 1 year program, choosing US over Europe as the geography that he wants to get in. So he was clear about that 1 year MBA. So he applied to 1 year MBA program across geographies, and then later on, once he converted, he decided which geography he wants to go to. So that's something which you need to look at. The second thing which is important is that you need to also take into account your post MBA goals. What is that you want to do? Because see, if you do not consider your post MBA goals before making this decision, your application might be rejected because of the school misfit. Let's say, for example, you want to get into marketing and you apply to a finance focused school, which hardly gets people, let's say, into the marketing role, and the people who get into the marketing role are generally the locals. So they will have to reject their application. For example, there is a university. If you apply to University of Alberta in Canada, it's a very energy focused program. They go to the extent of saying that most of our placements are in the energy, oil and gas space. So if you do not intend to join that space, or you do not have an experience in that space, probably getting a placement is going to be difficult. So if you do not have clarity around a post MBA goal, sometimes the application might lead to rejection just because of that. Like we have worked with multiple clients where this has happened with them in the past, and then they aligned their goals the right way, applied to the right schools, got converted. On the same At the same time, if you do not think about the post MBA prospects, you can end up with a bad ROI, with a loan where you might not be able to get to the right space. Also, if you don't think about the industry, it can lead to bad job satisfaction, and definitely it can also lead to stunted growth. So you have to look at what are the best places to get to if you want to work in a specific domain. So let's say if you want to go get into finance, we always recommend look at New York and London. Obviously, there are other areas also where you can get great finance opportunities, but if you're looking at specifically finance, this is the area that you want to get to. So obviously, if you're looking at finance, apply to universities around this area. So let's say in NYC, you can look at NYU Stern, Columbia Business School. In London, you can look at London Business School. Oxford and Cambridge are also very close to them. So you can apply to those colleges also. Similarly, and you can look at universities around the New York area. Like you can look at Yale, the colleges which are on the East Coast. So the idea is that you look at colleges around this area which can give you access to the job market of that particular area. Because in colleges abroad, your placements are not like in India that the companies come to recruit directly to the campus. Yeah, again, 40-50% placements still happen in most campuses as well, but you still have to go out and find for job, apply to job boards and all. So you need to be located in a place where you have access to the job market also. Okay. So for example, I take an example of Jeevan. So Jeevan was someone who actually started working on his application way in advance around June when he had to apply to the September deadlines. And he's very clear that he wanted to focus on finance focused schools. Basically, he was into finance. He was working with HSBC at that point of time. He wanted to stay in finance, and he was actually having experience in treasury, and he wanted to move to the investment banking side of it. So obviously for him, London and New York were the best options. So he applied to NYU Stern, Columbia, London Business School. The good thing is that having that clarity in mind around finance helped him to also network with the right set of people. He networked with the students and alumni of the schools from that perspective, from similar backgrounds, tried to understand that, participated in college events. All of that really helped him also to kind of get the best out. And he was able to convert both these schools. In fact, he converted London Business School with around 50% scholarship, and he ended up joining NYU Stern over London Business School simply because the Big Apple is the place to be if you really want to get a career in finance as well. So that's something which he decided to go for. Okay. I have a question from Sumit. I'll take it up. Having a 10-year military experience at age 36, is it difficult to get through B schools in Europe? Average age in flagship programs are around 29 and 30 as per their website and the guide. So Sumit, again, the number that you're telling is right, that yeah, on an average, the like age will be around 29, 30 because the average experience they are seeking is around that. But please understand that's the average that you're talking about. You will always have people plus minus 3 to 4 years on both sides, basically. Okay, so it's still possible for you to get in. Again, with 10 years of experience, I do understand that you're on the higher side of the domain, but we have a lot of people who get into top European B school programs with your kind of experience. So what is important is that you present your experience in the right way to the B school. If you are having military experience, then there are things around operations, discipline, a lot of great things you like people in military too. So you have to showcase those skills, and how will you translate those skills into your future business role basically, and what are the skills that you feel are missing for you to transition into a proper business role, and how do you develop these skills from an MBA program is what you have to showcase to the B school. So if you present your case well to the B school, you will have a good shot. So make sure that you spend time on your application, you have a decent GMAT score. And if you're looking at schools in Europe, they don't require very high GMAT score. So even let's say if you have around 675, 685, around that score in the GMAT Focus Edition, that's considered a very good score, basically, like more than what they will require. So if you have that kind of a score, you're good to apply to the European B school. So make sure that you put your 100% on the application. Tell your story right. That's important. I hope that helps. And the slide is probably also going to help you out. So if you look at manufacturing, you want to get into the manufacturing sector, you want to grow in the manufacturing domain, probably doing it from schools around Germany, Italy is the best option. Like for example, if you look at SGA Bocconi in Italy, you look at in Germany, you have Mannheim Business School, WHU, you have ESMT. These are great options if you want to get into the manufacturing domain. Basically, these are really good options. In fact, in US, you look at specifically, you can look at colleges around Texas. So you have colleges like Coombs, WP Carey. These kind of programs are pretty good for getting into the manufacturing side of the roles, operations, manufacturing kind of roles. Okay. Similarly, if you are looking at tech or PM roles, you can look at these geographies. You can look at obviously the west coast of US, which is California, like anywhere in California, it's LA or San Francisco. A lot of other places are there. In fact, nowadays Texas is also really doing well in terms of tech. A lot of companies are moving to Texas as well. So you can look at colleges around it. So Haas, you have Stanford, you have UCLA, you have USC Marshall, you have McCombs over there. A lot of great schools are over there. You can apply to them. London has a great tech thing going on. Amsterdam is great for tech. Berlin is great for tech. So if you're looking at colleges, you're looking at a goal, long-term goal of getting into tech or product management roles, you should be looking at these geographies and apply to these schools. You will have a higher chance of getting in. You will also have a better growth post your MBA as well. Okay, so I've mentioned some of the B schools on the screen, basically, in case you guys are looking at what kind of schools I should be applying to in these geographies. And you'll probably not see any M7 over here, Harvard, Wharton, or Stanford over here. Stanford is mentioned, but yeah, you'll not see a lot of M7s because most of the M7s are good at almost every domain. So you can probably get into almost every domain. So that's not usually a problem. But these are some schools that are very well known for these particular areas. Let's say, for example, IMD in Switzerland, SGA Bocconi are very well known for manufacturing domain. NCR is the heaven if you want to really get into consulting. LBS is well known for consulting and finance. You can get into both of these domains. Kellogg is great for consulting and tech roles. Tuck is amazing for consulting. Around almost about 48% of people get into consulting related roles in Tuck. Like these are really, really great colleges. Stanford is great for tech PM. Haas, Anderson are great for tech. There are colleges like Babson, ISADE, Imperial, which are great for entrepreneurship. If you're looking at healthcare, Duke is one of the best options out there. Operations and supply chain, you have McCombs, one of the best options out there. WP Carey is also good. You can look at the colleges around Texas. They're very good for operations. So again, every school has their specialty, and you need to understand what is the domain that you want to get into. And if you apply to that school, the chances of getting in definitely increases. So, for example, there are colleges which focus a lot on ESG sustainability, and again, there are a lot of different schools. Like, for example, Warwick focuses a lot on sustainability. So, if you have coming from sustainability background, the chance of getting into Warwick in UK is pretty high overall. So, you have to look at it that way. Now, the next factor that you have to consider is ROI. Okay, any programs that you recommend for marketing? So, again, for marketing in India, you can look at IIM Ahmedabad, is pretty decent for marketing. I'm Ahmedabad and Bangalore pretty good for marketing. US, you can look at a lot of programs which are like any top 15 program you can look at, but generally getting into that might be a little difficult. So a lot of colleges are around marketing. Let's say Kelly is good for marketing. You have Madison, which is great for marketing. Madison, in fact, one of our students converted Madison, which is in top five for ranked top five for marketing in US. Even with a scholarship of around 18% this time with a GMAT score of 630 only. So again, there are great colleges all for marketing, but marketing is a domain where it's very tricky for foreigners to get in, because if you are a foreigner, then getting a job in marketing after an MBA is difficult, as you are not born and brought up in that country. So understand the customer psyche becomes difficult for you. So that's a slightly difficult area for foreigners to get in. I'm not saying it's impossible, but slightly difficult area for foreigners to get in. But yeah, there are great colleges for marketing also, which you can find out. So the next factor you have to look at is ROI. Now, what is ROI? ROI basically is calculated as your immediate. So the formula that we have used for ROI here is that what is your immediate post MBA salary, basically post MBA pay, divided by your like fees, basically the fee or cost of the program, basically, which will include obviously your stay and those kind of things. Okay, so the data that you see is based on that. On an average, we have calculated for M7s. Now, this data, if you're looking at, you might think, okay, M7s are not as great as T8 to T15 for ROI. Now, again, this is your numbers speaking. But what you have to also understand is that in M7s, a lot of people get into entrepreneurship post M7s, or get into social work, like they get into community service, they get into companies where they are not focusing just on the monetary part of it, the other parts also. So their numbers are on an average are lower, but in reality you end up doing better, obviously, in terms of that. The fees is also slightly higher. In case of T8 to 215 colleges, your chances of getting in a scholarship is also higher. Like you can easily, like if you do a thorough application, you can get like a scholarship around 15-20% comfortably from T8 to T15 schools. So that's something which is also there. So obviously, the cost of attendance becomes low, so your ROI increases because of that as well. And I always recommend that ROI should not be the first factor, as the slide also says, that you have to look at actionable, like you have to look at the goals along with that, and then only like the ROI kind of makes sense. So, for example, if I look at M7, okay, and I compare that to the T30. Okay, it's possible that an M7 I get an admit with 0% scholarship. Okay, and I get an admit in T30 with 100% scholarship. Even then, it probably makes more sense for me to go for an M7, because I need to look at the long-term ROI. So the long-term ROI of an M7 will be much better than a T30 B school, because your jump in salaries will also be high. You'll actually be getting to the senior levels much faster. Again, all of this assuming that you are working at the same level in both cases. It's also about individual brilliance. I'm not saying people in T30 don't get to the top roles. That's the wrong statement. What I'm trying to say is, on a general basis, if you compare, people in M7 get better opportunities, better platforms. So obviously, if you have T30 versus M7 kind of a thing, it makes sense to join a M7 program. But let's say, on the other hand, if you're getting a scholarship, a 100% pride or a 80% pride or a 70% pride from a T15, T8 to T15 kind of a college, it probably in some cases might make more sense to join the T15 college, given that there is not much of a difference in terms of the return on investment that you're getting from an M7. Like the kind of placements you're getting would be similar. You might end up saving a lot of money. So in some cases, the short-term ROI, which you see on the table, does make sense. But in other cases, it might not make a lot of sense. You always need to look at ROI also from a long-term perspective, that what is that you're going to get in the longer run. Okay. Now, some special mentions that I would like to give over here, and because of these special mentions, in fact, this T8 to T15 number you see is very high. There are some colleges which are really great for ROI perspective, and that's what your main aim is, that you don't want to invest a lot of money and you want to get a great ROI. Then these are the colleges you can look at. In US, Pepper, Ross, Duke are great options. Duke gives a decent number of scholarships as well. So given that all of that, these are really good options. HSC Paris is a great option. Manheim is an amazing option if you're looking at. It can help you complete your MBA. You can complete your MBA in as less as 40,000, 50,000 euros, and the average package is way higher, like upwards of 100K, basically. So, and there is some scholarship also available in Manheim if you submit this course by some time, and there are some other kind of scholarships as well. So these are some really, really good ROI, like high ROI programs that you can look at. Okay, so it does make sense for you to look at some of these options if ROI is very, very critical for you overall. Okay. Now, as I said, that there are many programs which actually give a very high ROI. So if you are looking at some of these programs, I'll take up a talk about Sonal. So Sonal is someone who applied to Duke and Tuck both. Again, she applied to Pepper also, in 2022. Okay, again another high ROI program, but she got rejected by almost every school, not just Stepper, a lot of other schools she applied to. The main problem that she had was that her goal alignment was not very well done with the profile. So what she did was she presented a particular long-term career goal that she thought would be the right thing for her in the applications, but the skills that she had portrayed at till that point in her current role, which was tech consulting, was not very well resonating with what she portrayed to the B school. So when an adcom looks at your profile and application, they would probably feel that okay, possibly with this skill sets, it will be difficult for the student to transition into this particular role. Okay, so it was very important for her to change the goals or align them better with what what her profile was. And when she worked with me last year, we actually did that. Obviously, she also improved her GMAT as well, which also played a role in getting the scholarship. But in terms of getting admitted to the B schools, one key change was that she changed her alignment and made it more aligned with her profile. The goals were much more aligned, and that helped her to not just convert Duke and Tuck. She also got scholarship from Duke, which was around 40% of the entire tuition fee. So again, if you're looking at high ROI B schools, you can look at some of these schools also. Now, one of the very some of the most commonly made mistakes when people select the B schools is they select geography based on B school rankings. They just see, okay, you know what, like most of the top B schools are in the US, so just go ahead with that. Don't make that mistake. If just applying to, let's say, schools based on ranking, that okay, I'm only going to apply to M7s, there's a possibility you might get rejected because M7s have very competitive conversion rates. Their acceptance rates are around 10 to 15% usually on site. So you might end up in a very bad school mix. If you're looking at applications, always recommend that you apply to one REIT school, about two possible schools basically, and around, like when I say reach, I mean dream basically over here, overall, like dream schools, two possible schools, and about one safe school, so that you have decent enough options in hand and you can convert some of them and then decide. So make sure that your like overall school mix is good. Make sure that you also take care of your finances, understand basically what you can afford, what you cannot, so that you don't end up in a situation where you cannot afford the fees and you are taking a hefty loan around that. Your goals will also not be a misfit with the overall thing. Okay, so these are certain some mistakes that you should avoid. Now, if in case you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me those questions right now. And in case you want to work with GMAT Wiz for your consulting applications, there are a lot of great applications that we have done in the past, and there's an early bird offer that we're also running. You can claim that offer by getting in touch with us. But if you have any questions around the application process, feel free to ask me now. I'm happy to take up your questions around the application or the B schools or the geographies that you want to, or you should be selecting for doing your MBA program. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. All right. And in case you want to connect with us directly, you have the details on the slide. You can connect with us directly using these links over here, and feel free to reach out to us on that. Okay. And if you have any questions, I'm here for a couple of minutes more to take them up. And I hope the session was helpful. It got you a clarity around what you should be doing, what are the factors that you need to keep in mind while selecting the right program, and how can you do that in the best possible way for yourself. Any questions, guys, on this part? Okay, so I don't see any question till now. I hope the session got you a lot of great insights. In case you have any session questions, feel free to reach out to us and stay tuned. Next week, same time, same place, we're going to cover the other aspects around visa, residency, those kind of factors. What is the role that they play? What are the visa regulations or the residency options in the different countries? So that it becomes easy for you to choose which country you should go to. If that all that is a very important criteria for you. Okay, so I'll see you guys next week, and I hope you like the session. So give this video a like and subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for the next week's session on the post MBA factors for deciding whether you should go for a US MBA or European MBA or Asian MBA. Okay, guys, see you next week then. All the best.